Welcome to Haken, an Animal Crossing podcast, your podcast dedicated to all things Animal Crossing. Episode 139 is brought to you by Andrew Ortolani, Lena, and Kayla Rummel, some of our newest Patreon patrons. This week, Nina, Sergio, and I are going to discuss whether we think New Horizons is complete or not. And then after that, we'll also talk about the possibility of restarting our islands. So to begin, hello, Nina. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good today. How about you?
I'm doing great. And then Sergio, how are you?
Yeah, doing great also. It's been, well, I guess last week it was filled with a lot of fishing and it was fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, always good to get some fishing in, especially I don't know, last week, why were we fishing so much? Why? It was the event, right? The fishing tourney?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course. But, have you gone for any of the new July things? I know you aren't looking at a guide. I kind of caved this past week and started looking at one just to see, how am I doing? Where am I with this thing? But as far as, your stuff, I guess, what's your strategy going forward without looking at a guide as far as fishing goes? Do you just kind of, check here and there, or what do you do?
No, I just, whenever I play, whatever time of the day it is, whatever project I'm doing, if I see a bug or I see a fish, I just go for it. And whatever I get throughout the month, that's what I get. And then starting next March, that's when I'm actually going to look, okay, I'm missing this, I'm missing that, and then make a more specific plan. But right now, I'm just whatever I get.
Awesome.
Have you
Cool.
been
Well, yeah.
really surprised by any of the fish that you've caught?
Not really. I mean, I know the one that was rare was the giant trevally, and I still haven't gotten that one.
Yeah, I barely got that one after looking for it forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, some of them are really hard to catch. There's some that are in specific spots, So it's I guess before I was looking at a guide, or actually before I looked at a guide, I would just kind of pick random spots where I'm like, okay, I don't know if there's something special in the pond this time of year, but maybe I'll just spend 20 bait here and see if I find something new,
Mm-hmm.
And I do that at different areas where I know specific fish only show up. There's the places like the river's mouth where it opens up into the ocean. There's the cliff tops, there's ponds, there's the pier. So yeah, basically
Right.
I would just go through all of those and, just fish there in case I, missed something, because I didn't know, I wasn't looking.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
That covers everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So let's go ahead and jump into our first topic. And this is one that we've seen talked about a lot lately. I think a lot of people, now that they've spent some more time with Animal Crossing, New Horizons, I guess we're getting a big crowd of people who are feeling like the game is incomplete. It's kind of early access stages. They don't feel as fulfilled or as satisfied as previous Animal Crossing titles, And so we're going to talk about that a little bit, kind of our feelings about the games in general. But really quickly, let's give some opening statements regarding New Horizons and what we feel about the early access / incomplete discussion happening around the internet. So Sergio, do you want to get us kicked off?
Yes, and I kind of want to start by prefacing that I'm probably gonna sound very negative on this episode, and if I come across that way, it's only because I absolutely love Animal Crossing and I want the best for it. So basically, yeah, I do think it's incomplete, and it it bothers me when I really think about it, because I don't mind if a game takes 2 or 3 years adding updates for new features, but and it's very hard to know for sure. We cannot know for certain that everything that we're getting is being worked on at the moment, but it's possible. It seems like some of the features were held up on purpose, from some features from the older games were kind of just being held off for future updates. And if that's the case, that's what really bothers me.
Yeah. And, I think it's good that we have you here kind of having that perspective on it too, because, I mean, this is basically why we're talking about it. There are a lot of people who feel this way,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of people who feel that there are things that probably should have been in the game from the get-go, you know? So, yeah, no, I don't think... I guess, I don't know, I feel like you're not really a negative person at all, but sometimes it's good to let it out, you
Yeah.
know? Cool, so Nina, I guess, what do you have to say about this stuff?
I'm kind of like naive and trusting if on this topic. I feel like the developers are going to have, what's best for the game in their hearts, hopefully, especially because we're not having to like pay for updates. I think that's really nice that the designers are kind of working more towards making the game better for us as an experience instead of, just trying to gouge our pockets. So, in that way, I've put a lot of trust in the developers and kind of just take it as a game that keeps giving instead of incomplete. So I'm kind of wishy washy on it. Different parts of it, like especially with the swimming, would have been nice to have at the get go, but also. I'm the kind of person who binge played the game for 600 hours and did everything that I could do. So maybe having everything given to me, like with a slow drip, is healthy for me. So I'm kind of
Oh,
on the
okay.
fence both ways.
Yeah, yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, that's also a very good point coming from
Yeah.
at it from like, sure, it wasn't in the game at the beginning, but they're not charging you anymore
Right.
to put it in now. So, there's definitely less harm to that. Whereas, like, I'm sure if they charged for these types of features that probably existed before, people would be a lot more angry. I would expect that
Yeah.
definitely. So, yeah. As far as I go, I consider, and I've mentioned this in the past, but I consider Animal Crossing more of a living game, at least this iteration of it, because in many ways the game, like, it lets us do so much more than previous titles. Like, being able to terraform everything and place items wherever we want is already a huge upgrade from what we were able to do before. And so, as far as like the things that are missing, I think that's what makes it a living game to me. That it's like, sure, it's missing now, but maybe after some updates, maybe a year or two down the line, it's gonna eventually find its way there, especially things that go beyond what's missing as well. And I think that's what I'm more
Hmm.
interested in. I think I'm more interested in things that go beyond what Animal Crossing has presented before. Like all of the new stuff is really intriguing because I mean, as for me as a player, I've just been terraforming like crazy and really messing with that feature a lot. So I don't know. I feel like I'm having a good enough time with what's already there that I haven't been too bothered with things. But I do get that like I am I would consider myself at the beginning stages of developing my island, whereas some other players don't. They're a lot further along and they feel like they need something else to really, inspire them to go beyond what they've already made. So for me, just being at like what I'd say infancy of my island development,
Hmm.
I'm a busy guy. Cool. So I do have some specific questions in regards to this topic, just so we can, kind of guide our conversation from here. But the first one is, do you think New Horizons came out too early, and does the game feel incomplete because of it? And I guess, Sergio, we'll let you start again.
Sure. So no, I don't think it came out too early, but as far as if it's incomplete, in a way, I'm gonna say yes, and I'm gonna say it's incomplete on purpose. Meaning they're holding back on things that are like I said, it's impossible to say for sure, but I think a lot of features are complete and they're just holding back for future updates. And I don't think it came out too early. It probably would have come out earlier if they weren't doing this 2 to 3 year update plan. I'm sure it took them a lot of time to actually lay out, a good plan on how the updates were gonna be distributed. I do definitely trust the development team in if this is their approach, piecemealing the game. I'm pretty sure they really thought long and hard about what to update and when. So that probably took a little more development time. So if this wasn't the case, the game would have come out probably a little bit earlier, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and you're making some good points too. Like, I mean, clearly, as far as like I've seen with the updates that we have gotten, there was some preface that Nintendo placed that there are things that are going to be added on later. Like during that big giant February Direct where they finally told us everything about the game, well, at least everything that they wanted to tell us,
Yeah.
They did make it very clear that the holidays weren't going to be there in the start. They were going to be added over time. And I guess what this guided me in thinking with the game is that they're approaching some of the aspects to their updates in terms of what I would personally like. And it's not like they talk to me or anything, or any of us, to really get ideas for how to do it. But when I see the updates, I think these are kind of built for me as a player, where I'm the type of Animal Crossing player who is probably going to get like a good 4 or 5 years out of this title before like really feeling what other people are probably feeling right now. So like that's just the kind of player I am. So I feel like these updates where they're adding holidays as they come up, that works for forcing people to play kind of the way I do, which I don't necessarily think is the best way to play. It's just the way that I personally enjoy. So I don't know. I guess I feel like it's the developers saying, you have to play this aspect of the game this way. This is what we've decided. And I feel like that
Right.
takes a lot of the control that people are used to having in Animal Crossing away from them, because that kind of destroys a big aspect of like time travelers, what they like
Yes.
doing before,
Yes.
where they were like, oh, I want to go and play this event, even though it's not that time of year right now. Like now there is zero opportunity to do that. And we don't know if the, I guess, quotation marks, complete version of the game is going to have more standalone type of events that are just already in the data. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you saying that, like, incomplete, yes, kind of, because for me, I don't think it's going to be truly complete until that, like, last update hits and we're never going to see anything updated in the game again,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it is kind of weird that we don't have those holidays. Like again, that's a healthy thing for me, but if you were a time traveler and wanted to go play Halloween right now, you can't. So in that way it does feel incomplete. Like if something happened, God forbid, to Nintendo right now and they weren't able to give us any more updates, we wouldn't have these holidays that we'd be expecting in a normal Animal Crossing game. So in that way, the game does feel incomplete. But with their promise of future updates, I keep going back and forth. It's just something that an aspect of it that I'm enjoying.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point too. Like I mean, luckily Nintendo's a very long-lived company. They're already over 100 years old, so I don't think we have to worry about them disappearing. But on the off chance they do, like what we see is what we get at this point. Like that's going to be the game that exists out there. This is going to be the Animal Crossing that represents this Switch generation of consoles. And that's unique, I guess, to some extent, because we had, I mean, there's a whole range of updates that happened to the original GameCube version of the game, even to the extent where the first version of it wasn't on the GameCube, it was on the N64. So that one got updated all sorts of different ways. Beyond that, Wild World was essentially what we got. City Folk was essentially more Wild World. And then New Leaf was really the different game in this bunch, because it wasn't like another updated version was released, even though technically there was because you could buy a standalone version of it, but there was a free update that came to that game. So the version of New Leaf that exists in the world today isn't the original version that came out, like, and that's kind of what New Leaf is doing, but on a more regular mass scale where they're doing basically monthly updates, which is a lot.
Right.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah. So I guess, Nina, I wanted to get your perspective too. Like, do you feel like the game came out too early or feels incomplete?
I don't think it came out too early, specifically because it was delayed. So maybe if it had come out in the 2019 timeframe we were first given, it would have come out too early. But I'm grateful that Nintendo took a look at what they had and said, no, we need to push this. Push it back. So, I'm glad they're not making their developers, throw out something that they don't feel is ready. But, the game that they did end up releasing on March 20th was as ready as they wanted it to be, knowing that they were going to be giving us more later on. So, again, I just kind of put my hopeful trust in Aya.
Yeah. And I mean, like, judging by what has been updated so far and kind of their attitude toward these updates where we are getting monthly things, I definitely suspect there's this huge, like, year-long plan of what's coming next, and I'm sure a lot of it's kind of ready, a lot of it's still probably being worked on, and it's just, like I said, spreading out the gameplay in a way that works for how I play, but maybe not necessarily how others like to enjoy the game. Yeah. So I guess for me, I'd say I don't think this game could have come out soon enough. I feel like Sergio and I, we did this podcast for so long with literally nothing to talk about except for like Pocket Camp. Pocket Camp was the game that was out when this podcast started. So it's a very weird place to be compared to now, where I feel like there are things to talk about pretty regularly regarding New Horizons, but that wasn't the case before. So like content creator me, yes, get this game out soon. But also it's like, I feel like I'd been waiting for the game since the Wii U, and as soon as we saw like HD Nintendo console, think of the Animal Crossing that's going to be on this thing. It felt like it was time for that, but then we got a string of spin-off titles, and that, that's a whole nother discussion, but regardless, I'm happy that it's out. I don't think I would have wanted to wait, and I don't think I am disappointed that we didn't have to wait more, or we didn't wait more to have more features, because like even before that whole first round of updates came in, like I was still hard at work at getting like KK Slider to show up at the beginning. So, so yeah, no, I feel like there was enough game for me to enjoy, and it didn't feel necessarily incomplete. I think. But at the same time, I do remember, I don't know if you both remember this, but I reached out to kind of like the mod team on Haken, and I said, everybody, I'm having a bit of a premonition, but I have a feeling there's a lot of stuff that's not in this game yet, And so I think when the game came out, I naturally had the expectation that there wasn't going to be some of the features that we were used to having in previous titles. And I came in with the idea that it's not there yet. Like to me, it always felt like there's going to be some updates later on that are going to add this over time. But I have a feeling it's not there yet,
Do you still have that feeling?
Yeah, I do, actually. I still think that a lot of the stuff is going to show up. I mean, I don't know how much stake to put in things like data mines and stuff. Sometimes, they find things that never really make it into a game. But the big one that happened very early on, actually called out some of the updates that we've already gotten, things like
Yes.
diving, things like the museum upgrade. And there's some stuff in there that, it would be returning features, but also stuff that would be new things. And now that we've seen a couple of these updates and seen like what has come out of them, I guess I feel more confident in believing that a lot of that stuff is eventually going to be in the game, which is nice. And I also think back to the interview with Aya Kyogoku, where they asked her just kind of like the plan for updates and everything. And she said, we're really excited to surprise players 2 or 3 years down the line. So to me, it sounds like they have this plan, and it sounds like they're still planning to just keep the game fresh for a lot longer than we're used to.
Hmm.
I mean, that makes me really hopeful for like after we've gotten this swimming update, I am kind of from now on just expecting holidays. And they may be holidays that are more expanded than the ones that we're used to, but any other like game features that they could add to the game would be amazing. Would be icing on the cake of an amazing game that I've put, 800 hours into. So, I, yeah, I think that would be awesome if we got more than just holidays.
Yeah. And then I guess, you mentioned you have like 800 hours on New Horizons. Do you happen to know like how that compares to your New Leaf playtime?
I finally looked it up. So I have the Pop Tart 3DS from
Ooh.
when New Leaf first came out. So it only
I
turns
wish
on.
I had that.
It's really cute, but it only turns on if it's plugged in. It's kind of on
yeah.
its last leg. So I finally booted it up and got to visit my old town again, and it looked like I was almost to 1,400 hours on New Leaf.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, but like put that in perspective. It's been
Right.
4 months of
Yeah.
New Horizons and you're nearly halfway there.
Right? And that game I played a solid 2, if not 3 years worth.
Oh.
Yeah. In 4 months. That's amazing.
I know. Well, I mean, quarantine helped, but yes, I'm a fan of New Horizons.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But at the same time, you have to think about like, where were you when New Leaf was out? I know I was in college and I had tons of time like in between classes and stuff and not really like a full-time job. I mean, school's busy for sure, but you find your breaks here and there. But,
That's true.
my playtime didn't match anywhere near what I've gotten in New Horizons so far. I think I'm about to hit like 500 hours if I haven't yet. But that's already halfway to the 1,000 hours that are probably logged on my New Leaf. Of course, it's kind of spread out now between a couple DSs, and one of them is Sergio's, so I could not tell you what my time is on the game anymore. But I know for my 3DS, that actually has like my log throughout the lifetime of my 3DS, I think it's at 1,000. So, to be halfway to that in a 4-month period at a time in my life when I am definitely busier, that is insane to me.
That's true.
Yeah. So I do have some more questions, so we should get through some more. But does it bother you that features from previous games are missing? So we have mentioned that there are things missing, but is it a bother? And I've been liking starting with you, Sergio, because you have more of the negative ones.
Right. And yeah, this is the one that bothers me the most. Um, I do hope to eventually, like one day, make my own game. I went to college and got a video game design degree, so I have this principle of mine that when you make a sequel to a game, you only add features. You don't take anything away from the previous title. If something was broken, you fix it. You don't take it out. And I mean, if something wasn't broken, you definitely leave it in. And if you can, you expand on it. So when a game comes out and it doesn't have a lot of the features that the previous game had, yeah, to me that's I don't want to say bad design, just a bad choice is one I wouldn't make. So it does bother me personally. Like I said, I'm not saying it's bad design. It's just it bothers me on a bit of a personal level. And even if you think of the features as small, maybe some might say like insignificant, but it's not to everyone. So to one person, the Dream Suite might have been the best thing ever, and now they don't have it. Even the fact that the villagers that leave your island or your town, there's no way for you to see them again. But in New Leaf, you could run into them in Main Street eventually. So even the little things, they're missing, and it does bother me.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And, I guess when you see these things added in the updates, does that kind of alleviate or make it more annoying to you?
Honestly, it makes it a little bit more annoying because I feel like they're touting quote unquote new features, and I guess in a way they are because they're new to New Horizons, but they're not necessarily new to the series unless they
Mhm.
change them up a bit, which I know sometimes they do. But to me, it would be better if we only got updates with new features, even if it was less constant, maybe a quote unquote big update every 6 months or so, but only new features. And the game had every previous feature from New Leaf. I mean, that's an approach. That's the one I would have taken. I don't know if it would have been more popular or not, but that's what I would have done.
I see. Um, yeah, I mean, that I feel like you're nailing the sentiments that I've seen a lot from people
Hmm.
where they are kind of bothered that this update was like swimming. They're like, well, I played New Leaf and that was in there already from the start, you
Right,
know?
right,
And I guess when I think about progression in the game too, I wonder if Nintendo is kind of like artificially creating it by doing it this way. In the sense of like, how long does it take to get you a wetsuit in New Leaf? And how long did it take to get one in New Horizons? In our
right.
case, 4 months. That's about the time we waited for it. But in New Leaf, I guess I don't remember how long it was. I want to say it was about a week or so before you unlocked Tortimer Island,
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
probably just like a week.
Well, and I think it was a little bit longer than that because then you had to earn enough gosh, I've even forgotten what they're called. The
Oh,
tickets that
yes.
you get on the
The
island.
medals, I think, the island medals,
Yeah.
or
And the ugh, the marine suit was something like 60 tickets or something like that. And of
hmm
course, you could always rent the one on the island, but if you wanted to swim back on your town, you had to get enough tickets to buy it. So
Right.
maybe 2 weeks, but that's really nothing
Yeah.
compared.
hmm Yeah, yeah. So I feel like in some ways these updates are kind of artificially approaching or kind of artificially creating a amount of time that
Mm-hmm.
you have to wait for certain things because and we saw that we're seeing this happen kind of with the museum as well where the museum for I mean this is a very nice feature. I think all of us agree that the museum upgrades now. That's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also kind of like artificially introducing those time lapses between upgrades where we waited, I don't know, a month before the museum update happened and added artwork.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a long wait for one feature to get unlocked. And now this last one added the sea creatures to it. It didn't really give us a new room, but it did kind of show that the displays have expanded. Not expanded, but like some of the displays were definitely pre-built to handle these I guess, diving creatures, right?
Definitely.
And so I get the feeling like, we've only had one Nook shop upgrade, whereas before we'd probably be three shops
Mm.
in after like a month or two of gameplay, right?
Right, right.
And so now I'm just like, they're probably going to update the shop at some point. And even that first update took like a full 30 days of playing before it triggered. So I think the amount of time it takes to get to that next level on these things is twofold. One, they want it to take a long time, and two, they want it to take so long that they're not even in the game yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
Nintendo is making us play the game the way they've always wanted us to play the game by giving us these updates so slowly.
Yeah.
They're like,
and
you're going to time travel? Too bad. There's nothing to time travel to.
I know. Outside of like, oh, good, you completed your encyclopedia and your museum, but guess what? We're adding more to the museum later, so you're not done yet.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so interesting how much the developers want to control our game experience when that's I mean no other game that I know of does that at all. It makes Animal Crossing
Yeah.
so unique.
Yeah, and it is a really unique thing that's probably based just on that real-time clock. Like they want it to be a part of your life, just like, and you know, for players like us, it is in a lot of ways. Like we're constantly thinking about it and playing the games for much longer than the average audience, you know? So I think they're trying to foster that in some ways, but I definitely see that rubbing people the wrong way. And I mentioned this earlier, like, sure, I like playing this way, but I don't think everybody needs to. Like, you don't need to be forced to play that way. I'd prefer people just be able to play the way that they get the most enjoyment out of it, because then I don't have to see so many complaints about my favorite game on the internet. Cool. So I guess Nina, does it bother you that features are missing?
Um yes and no. Again, I'm going to flip-flop on this because I really enjoy getting excited with the community when we get announcements about a new update coming or a new holiday coming. I think that's just adding to my experience. But like I said before, if I was a time traveler and wanted to go celebrate Halloween and it wasn't there, that's disappointing to me. So I'm always on the fence with this answer, and I'm sorry. I'm sure that's going to make some people mad, but I enjoy the way that the game is being fed to us in the way that I play it.
Yeah. Well, you know, I have been mentioning that, like, I'm glad Sergio is here getting that that side of the conversation that is bothered by it. But, you know, there's a good portion of players who feel like you too, Nina, where it's like they're happy with it, but also like not happy in a weird way where, you know, we always want more. I think that's the human nature right there. We can always want more, and I think it's natural to want more from your Animal Crossing game, and I don't think there's not anything wrong with that. But I also think, like, you know, you can appreciate what's there while you're waiting, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I'd say, like, sometimes it bothers me. There are really, like, a lot of nice older things in the games that I wouldn't mind having. Like, I don't know, putting rugs outside. Pocket Camp could do it, and that's on my phone. You know? But yeah, I mean, like there are some things that I would want, but I guess where I don't think about it too often is just that I have so much to do on my island still. I mentioned earlier, I've got a lot of work cut out for me when it comes to building up my space. So I'm distracted enough to not have to think about it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I have two more questions here. I'm really loving this, though. This is a good thing to talk about. So how do you feel about the updates to New Horizons so far? Does it stand apart from previous titles? And Sergio, let's start with you again.
Sure, and okay, so it's definitely very, very different from New Leaf, right? New Leaf got one update, and it was quite big, and it was very considerable. But New Horizons has had a lot more updates. At first, I want to say we got like a quarterly update. We got 3 months of updates sort of in advance in a way, and now it seems like they're going with more of a monthly system. And yes, it's very exciting, because we get new features or new basically we get the updates more constantly, but like I said, in a way it's sort of a facade just for adding features that were missing from the previous games. And because of that, I think that adds to the feeling that they kind of held them back on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And you're totally right there. Like I said, I feel like there's a plan, and that's me kind of saying
Yeah.
that I agree with you. There's a plan of stuff that they were like, okay, we're not going to add this quite yet. We're just going to give it to them later, you know? And in some ways, you know, it does create that excitement that Nina was talking about earlier, where it's fun to see that our game is getting a little bit more love, a little bit more added to it, and, you know, just get together with our community and be like, this is so cool. I'm really excited to play the game this next Friday when it updates, you know? Um, so yeah, I mean, in some cases there's some excitement behind it, but also there's that little sting where you know it could have been there. It could have been
Mm.
in the game
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nina, how are you feeling about it?
Y- I do feel kind of that sting with the swimming update, especially because, the museum was so obviously ready for it that it seemed like something that had been taken away from us and then given. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but, once swimming was added, this game definitely is standing apart from other titles because we've got the terraforming, we've got the ability to decorate outside, which is unbelievable. In New Leaf, we could put, the public's works projects outside, but we had to work within, red tape of our mayoral system. So
Yeah.
it was very limited and there wasn't too much you could do. So just being able to decorate outside and create like a whole new world. Like I've made a library in my town, that in itself stands it apart from the other titles for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty big things that came into this base game. And, you know, to some extent, I'm like, all right, are there going to be bigger things added in the updates that seem really new? Because, like, even mentioning the ocean section or the kind of like the diving
Hmm.
creatures already being integrated into the existing museum, you know, the art section pretty much was too. Like, we all saw this staircase that went to nowhere and said,
Right.
there's something going there. We know there is. So right away, there were like gaps that needed to be filled, you know?
Hmm.
And I get the impression that that's probably, I don't think this is the last time we're going to see that. I'm going to predict right now gyroids are going to get their own section in the museum
Mm.
eventually at the back of the
Mm.
fossil exhibit or something. Um, so like I expect more like that and more stuff that's like, oh yeah, this could have been in the base game. Was it held back on purpose just
Yeah.
to have it be an exciting new thing for players later? And I say new in quotations there too. um, so yeah, I mean, for me, like I feel like the updates are fun. I feel like they're exciting, but as far as like standing out from previous titles, I think a lot of that stuff really came in the base game. Like, you know, you mentioned the terraforming and, you know, all the other stuff, but that was there from the start. So I think for the game to stand out even beyond that, which to me it already does with those features alone, but for it to like keep on that path, I think I need to see updates that go beyond adding features that we already had.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I have one last question for all of you. Does the game need a specific type of update to make you feel like it is complete? Or alternatively, if you already feel like it's complete, at what point did it feel complete to you?
Mm.
And Sergio, I guess we can start with you, like always.
So, yeah, for me, whenever we get a brand new feature, it seems like an actual. I want to say like a real update. I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm sorry, but basically, like we got Gully Bar, right? That's a
Hmm.
brand new, like a brand new,
Yeah.
in a way, almost like a brand new special character. I really like that. And if we ever get everything back from Newly for at least the majority of the features, I think at that point the game is gonna feel complete, but we don't know if we're gonna get there, and if we do, we don't know how long it's gonna take. So it's gonna be a journey and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll be here all the way
Oh
for
yeah.
it. Yeah, so Nina, how are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling it's pretty complete too. Again, if you just look at my hours in of itself, I think that answers my question. The main thing that I'm really missing is I'd love to see those mini games come back.
Mm.
I think that it's kind of amazing that we had so many mini games on such a small system like the 3DS, and that we have zero on the Switch. That would be awesome. So I hope that's an update that we get in the future. But again, I feel like it's a pretty complete game at the moment, and getting excited for those holidays to come in time, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you brought up the mini games too, because this is something I truly thought like, what is the point of having 8 players if we don't have some really intense mini game nights together?
Hmm.
It just felt like, this was the game to take the mini games to the next level as far as Animal Crossing goes, and there's just nothing in that sense.
Yeah, I mean it's a big gap that's missing, especially considering in New Leaf the tropical island was the thing that was all the mini games were around. So we're on our big tropical islands now, and there's no mini games, no Tortimer.
Yeah. No Tortimer. Maybe one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like Sergio said, like we're playing that waiting game. We don't know how long it'll take for that to happen or if
Hmm.
it will happen.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
And that's just another kind of like marketing thing. Like, yes, as a community, we're excited to get those updates, but Nintendo is smart enough to know that those updates keep Animal Crossing brand out in, the discussion on Twitter, and gets things trending and gets Nintendo's name out there. So it's interesting.
Mm.
It's just been an interesting experience with Animal Crossing.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, even going into that conversation about Nintendo, like this is the biggest Animal Crossing of all time. Like
Oh,
already, it's fresh
definitely.
out the gate.
Hmm.
Sales wise, it's done insane. I log into the eShop like I don't know every once in a while, but every time I do, it's topping the charts as the best seller.
Wow.
So it's a game that's doing incredibly well. It's attracting a much larger audience than it has ever had at this
Yes.
point.
Hmm.
And so, I'm at that point naturally, that there are a bunch of people who are playing this game for the first time. And I would really like to get their opinions, like for anybody playing Animal Crossing for the first time and New Horizons is the first title, like I'm sure that you have a very different perspective about this. Like, we're all longtime fans who have seen so much of the series already. So, yeah, like, just let us know how you feel about the game and the updates and, the actual content that you're experiencing, right?
And I would want
So
to
for me,
know. Oh, sorry,
oh,
I
no,
keep
no, go
cutting
for
you
it.
off. Well, I would want to know, for those players who are brand new to the series, like we get so excited when an update comes out and brings back a character that we've always loved. But, someone who's new doesn't have that nostalgia attached to the character. So I wonder if these updates aren't as exciting because there's no nostalgia, or if it's just as exciting because it's something shiny and new. So
Mm.
that's a question I would have too.
Yeah, that's a great one. Thanks for asking that.
Tell
Yeah.
us your answer now, Chewy. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no problem. For me, I think the game's complete enough for me to enjoy playing it. Like, even thinking about, I could list some of the gripes of stuff that I don't. I guess I'm just not happy or missing.
Hmm.
But has that stopped me from playing? I don't think so. I don't think it will. I think I'm just looking forward to the updates that bring more fresh content to Animal Crossing, stuff that we've never seen before. I know a lot of people are like against things like farming and cooking in the game, but I mean, I don't mind that being in there because to me, farming is like a new outdoor aesthetic that wasn't there before. Because you all know me. I'm the person who loves trees and plants and all sorts of that stuff. But the tree, there's basically three styles of trees. There's the hardwood style that has all of the fruit, all of the money trees, you know. There's the cedar trees, which, you know, they all just have the same thing, glorious cedar. and, and then there's the palm trees. So there's like basically three types of greenery, and then
and
they added the
bamboo.
bushes. Bamboo, yeah, I forget the bamboo because I have not had any on my island for a little bit. But bamboo, and then they added the bushes. So like any new type of outdoor aesthetic that is like pretty natural is always welcome for me. And I think farming kind of does that, you know, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
and cooking, you know, there are a whole array of, I guess, food items that have existed throughout Animal Crossing. And
Yes.
this game does it have very many,
No.
if any at all?
No.
How are we going to make our cafes and restaurants on our islands if we don't have those things? So cooking might be like just another little crafting mechanic that lets us cook up some dishes that we can display, you know? So I don't know. I feel like there's ways to make these things in a way that there isn't invasive. And honestly, like if you think about Animal Crossing, like it's not that deep. It doesn't go incredibly deep in any one direction. You know, maybe the customization, but as far as like design and actually making a place look how you want it to look, you know. But outside of that, like the other features, like fishing, I get a fishing rod, I throw the line out, I click A, I catch the fish. Bug catching, I click A, I catch the bug. It doesn't go too deep, and I don't think that the farming and cooking would
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
I mean, what is cooking except for crafting? I mean, it could even be at the crafting bench if it really wanted to.
Yeah, but I mean, how cute would it be if you got a whole bunch of different little stoves
Oh my
for your
gosh.
cooking bench? You know?
That would be amazing.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I guess for me, like the game's complete enough for me to have fun with it. I have been having fun with it. I would like to see updates in the future that are really true new ideas to the franchise.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess that's what we have to say about about that. But let's go ahead and move on into a little discussion about island resetting. So I think a lot of people have also been having the conversation of like, is it time to reset my island and just start fresh? You know, I know there are plenty of players who also play this way. There's so many different ways to play Animal Crossing, but one that I cannot relate to very easily. I would if I had a second Switch, but as far as right now, there's no easy way to get a second island, but I think a lot of people are now realizing, oh, there was a lot of this stuff that I could have done before. There was all of these things that I wish I knew before I developed my place the way I did, and now I'm paying for it by truly every possible way, time and money, the bells,
Yeah.
the days that it takes to move one place to another. But I think now that people are more informed with the game, they're like, all right, I think if I reset, I'd be able to make the island of my dreams. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But Sergio, I think you had a little bit of an opening statement here.
Right, and it's just a bit of a warning, I guess, because let's not forget if you do decide to completely reset your island, don't forget that you're going to be in that tutorial phase again. And that was a love or hate type of thing. I have good memories of that. It was very different, of course, to us that have been with the series for a long time. It was very different, very relaxing in a way, uh, getting the tutorial phase of New Horizons. But yeah, just keep that in mind. That's gonna slow you down a little bit. You're not gonna be progressing as much as you normally would on the previous games. Another thing to consider is that yeah, if you're gonna reset, it's gonna take a lot of time. To do the work and also to get to the ability to do the work again because of the tutorial. And also, unless you have a plan already, it's going to take you time to plan out your new island. And Chewy, like you said, there's also the other option of, depending on your situation, of course, if you're able to get another Switch, that might be a little bit easier because you can have a side island maybe with a different theme, but your main island, you can still have it in case you ever want to go back to it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think those are really good warnings for people who are looking into restarting because, you're going to have to listen to the same music for a week.
Yeah.
That's a warning there. It gets a little bit of an upgrade over the days, but it's going to be very repetitive. And like I've even seen people say that the new hourly music feels a little too repetitive. So you might want to start pulling out those CDs, playing something on your record player just to change it up. Cool. So I guess I wanted to open up with this really quick question. Have you considered resetting your island? And we'll change it up. Nina, have you?
Um, yes and no. I, have my second Switch, which really helped me kind of put those thoughts out of my head because I got to start my second island and I got to relive those beginning memories again. Um,
Hmm.
like Sergio said, I really enjoy that beginning of the game. So I kind of like starting from nothing. Um, but I very quickly just got back to Keel Hall and kept working on it. I haven't really been paying attention to my Fox Cove. I should probably make sure everyone's still alive over there. But I was even without my second island, I was thinking about doing some massive overhauls with Keelhaul before we got the swimming update and before Gullivar was added, which was sheer luck for me. Like that, there is more pirate stuff that I get to add on to my pirate theming instead of just trying something brand new. So, I don't know, the Animal Crossing gods were smiling on Keelhaul, and I get to keep it going, which is I'm excited about.
Yeah, yeah, because you're coming from a position where you did make like a really themed island from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
So your playthrough definitely revolved around that in a different way than probably Sergio and I went about playing.
Absolutely.
But you also already have a second Switch, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of ignore that temptation of resetting, and you kind of already have a place that can be your playground.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I'm really glad I got it out of my system again because I just haven't been over to my second island. So I know that if I had reset Keelhaul, I might have lost interest pretty quickly. So I'm excited that I was able to test the waters, I guess.
yeah, yeah, that's a good way to go. So Sergio, I guess how have you considered it at all?
No, not at all. No, I would feel empty. Castaño
Mm.
is like my home away from home at this point. I no, not at all.
That's good. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Sergio. Like I would never. If I did that sort of, even if I did that sort of thing, well, actually, no. I kind of already did
A
do a
little.
reset of my island. Yeah, a little bit. I did in a very manual way restart my island where I moved
Yeah,
everything to the
yeah.
beach. I unterraformed it. I'm re-terraforming it now. So in a way that is resetting, but as far as like actually like going through it with deleting that
Mm.
original save on my Switch and I couldn't do it. I could not do it. And it's mostly because I'm one of those longtime players who's played every game, and I can tell you right now that the only original place that I have that still exists is my New Leaf Haken, my New Leaf version of Haken.
Mhm.
The very original GameCube game, Haken, gone. Wild World Haken, gone. City Folk Haken, also gone. And I don't want to
Oh,
see that. For
Oh.
me, it's more worth it to keep it forever because I wish I had those memories to go back to.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So, to just follow up on that, what would cause you to restart your island? Nina, is there anything?
I I don't know. Like I said earlier, I still have my original New Leaf Town on my little Pop Tart 3DS. I think I kind of did play myself into a corner with Keelhaul and was again, like I said, super lucky that we're getting more pirate stuff. That almost made me want to do a manual reset like you did, Chewy, but
Hmm.
but I don't know, all those DIYs. It would take so long to start from scratch.
Oh man.
That's all I think of
Yeah.
is, and luckily, we've got the Discord where we could go in and get DIYs fairly easily, but I still haven't even unlocked all of the DIYs, so I don't know. It would be tricky.
Yeah, there are a lot to get for sure. And that's another good warning. You're gonna have to not be able to decorate like you could in your
Hmm.
current playthrough. Yeah, so I guess real quickly for me, I would reset if my game got corrupted. That would be
Yeah.
it. Like if it physically just got destroyed, corrupted, and the island is gone, then yeah, at that point I would just have to reset. That's the only other option.
You have no choice.
No choice. What about you, Sergio?
Yeah, same thing exactly. Like if my game got, corrupted, a bad save or something, and even if that were to happen, luckily, I have footage of all my playthroughs, so
Yeah.
I would rebuild to whatever we have now, and it still wouldn't feel the same because all the villagers would be brand new. I'm okay with them changing, one at a time basically, but if they all change at once, yeah, it definitely wouldn't feel the same, but still we would rebuild to whatever we have now.
Do you guys think that you'd try and kind of recreate what you had already, or do you think you'd go somewhere completely different?
So
Um,
for me, it would be exactly what we have now because I feel like there's still so much potential for what I want to do with my island, and I feel like if I change pace, because of a reset, it would be a little too different for me. No, I would prefer to basically rebuild exactly as much of as it is now, and then just pick up from there, basically.
Hmm.
I would probably do a lot of things differently. um, yeah, I don't think I'd try to make it exactly like it was because like I said, I'm still in that like in between space where I'm in the process of figuring that out, you know?
Right.
So I think I'd probably experiment a lot more.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, okay. How many questions do I have? I think I still have three. Good. um, I guess this is kind of similar to what you were asking, Nina, but I guess I'll point it your direction now. What would you do differently if you restarted your island?
I think I would be a little more cautious when choosing my map. Um, if you guys listened to the episode when we first started New Leaf, I talked about how I stayed up super late with Tab looking for a yellow airport
Yeah.
without realizing there were so many other things that I should have been looking for. So I'm still salty that I don't have tide pools on my island.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
definitely something I would look for is like the bigger rock formations that point to having tide pools. Um, and then maybe having my resident services a little bit further away from my airport. But I don't know. I think the only the only regret I have is the tide pools. Oh,
Yeah, they are
and then
really
also
cute.
they are so cute. But also I wouldn't worry so much about my starter villagers because they're gonna have the starter homes and I'm gonna send them off
Oh.
anyways.
Hmm.
So they don't matter.
Yeah, the first five villagers I wouldn't be worried about at all.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
It's the harsh
I
truth.
definitely get that. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I mean, there's some features that I would definitely keep an eye out for when looking at those new maps for sure. So I think you're on the right track with that. Cool. I guess I feel like you answered it, Sergio. You're gonna be doing things pretty similarly, right?
Yes.
Cool. So, are you interested in starting a second island instead of restarting? Nina, we know you have, so we'll skip you here.
Hmm.
No, actually, yeah, I want to hear from you. Like, uh, are you interested? Because you did also mention that you've barely played your second island at this point.
Yeah, I think maybe when things really slow down and I'm not so busy with Keelhaul anymore, that I could spend more time in Fox Cove. I still have a plan for it in the back of my mind, to go along with my Keelhaul theme and to and to kind of give love to the trickster fox god of red. um, but that's still on the back burner. I'm Keel Hall all the way.
Awesome. And then what about you, Sergio?
Yeah, it's a little more, it's more likely than a full reset for sure. But honestly, at this point, I don't see myself with a second island. It's surprising. I really thought I was gonna be right there with a second island pretty much from the beginning, and there has not even been a shred of desire to do that. I
Wow.
have plenty to do with just one island.
That's awesome. Yeah, I guess for me, I think I'd love to start a second island, but I'd fall into your boat, Nina, where I'd still be too focused on my main one to really do anything right now. But I don't know how I'd feel about it in, like, say, a couple years, you know? Maybe at that point, I'd be more interested.
Yeah.
Now, here's the last question. Would you time travel on an island you restarted? And I guess, Nina, we can start with you.
I still consider myself a necessity only time traveler. Everyone knows that I had to do that for my rock garden because it was trying to murder my Switch.
Uh-huh.
But on my secondary island, it's a southern hemisphere island, so that's all the time traveling I need, honestly.
Oh.
Awesome. Yeah, and then Sergio, I guess, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I feel like on a second island, I might do that. I still probably wouldn't. I feel like just having the other island is more new features enough. You have your island, and then if you have a second one, that's probably more than you need. So no, I don't think I would. But if I ever did, it definitely wouldn't be on my main island.
Awesome. For me, yes. No, I don't really know. um, I don't know. I guess I feel like probably just the second island. I don't think I can bring myself to do it. I think I would recognize the benefits of doing some time traveling early on, but I couldn't commit, you know?
Hmm.
Okay, let me add to this question for you two then. As a
Okay.
necessity only time traveler. Like if I miss a day because work is crazy or because I'm visiting family or something, I'll go back and play the day I missed, especially if it's like a holiday or something, and then go back forward to present time. Is that something that you guys would ever do?
Um, I guess it depends on how much time I have the day that I'm actually playing.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I felt like I had time to go back to that day, I would say yes. But if not, I think I'd just stick to the same timeline that I'm in.
Okay.
Hmm.
What about you, Sergio?
Yeah, I mean, no, I wouldn't. For me, it's always, there's always next year.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Even if it's like Harvest Festival or something.
Yeah,
Still,
yeah,
yeah,
there's always next year.
I guess so. All right. You guys are better people than I.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's a holiday, maybe. But holidays work different in this game, too, so
That's
it's
true.
hard to
Yeah,
approach
that's
it.
nice.
That's true.
Yeah. Cool. So let's go ahead and move into the last segment of our show, and that is Haken's Islander Corner. For those of you who don't know, every single week we ask our patrons on Patreon their questions or their answers to a question. And this week's question was, what would you like to see happen in an Animal Crossing movie sequel? So, very different topic here. I guess really quickly, do you both have any ideas for it? Sergio, any ideas for a sequel?
What I would want is not to have the focus on a villager moving away, like in the first one. So I would actually start the movie with a villager moving in and everyone being excited about getting a new neighbor. And then mostly just focusing on the non-playable, the special characters and maybe their backstories.
Oh,
That's really good.
I like that.
I like that. What about you, Nina?
Well, I mean, now my interest is peaked. I've got to build on that. I give us some background on Red and Nook, or Nook and Mabel, or Harriet and
Oh.
Harv. I would love to see more of the secondary characters. That would be cool. But I think also with just like kind of a backdrop of an island, if it goes along with New Horizons and is everybody joining together
Right.
to build up that island, that would be great.
Yeah, yeah. I think those are both really good. I think those are fun ways to go. I want my joke answer is more aliens for sure. Because that is the weirdest thing about the first movie, that there was such a heavy influence on aliens. But my real answer is I am such a sucker for like music movies, or like movies that just like revolve around music. They're not necessarily musicals, but they're like starting a band or something. So I'm all about throwing a huge concert on an island and getting KK Slider to perform there. So
Yeah.
I would just remake the introduction
Oh,
to New Horizons as a movie.
That would be cool
nice.
too.
Yeah, the Project K feature film.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Nice.
I hope it happens. Maybe Nintendo will make enough money that they decide to make us another movie.
Aren't they working on like a Mario movie right now? Just
Are
like,
they?
Yeah, yeah.
I think so,
What?
yeah.
How could they do better than the classic film Mario Brothers came out in the 90s?
You can't.
You
You
can't.
can't top that.
We still need to have that as a Haken movie night.
We do.
Yes,
we need
we
to
do.
we need to get that going ASAP.
The most beautiful movie that has ever existed.
I mean, okay, so can I just express that I'm a little bit disappointed in Nintendo right now? Like, they're creating a theme park that's all Nintendo and stuff, and I'm like, how do you not have Animal
I
Crossing
know.
have some representation there? They're working on a Mario movie right now, and I'm like, how can you not have an Animal Crossing movie as well? I mean, I know there already is one, but like, we could do another one. We could do another. I was gonna say better, but I don't know. I don't know if we can do better.
Well,
Okay, so
hopefully.
let's get into our patrons' answers here. I guess I'll go first, then Sergio, then Nina.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so Honey Ocean said, to be honest, I'd like another simple, quiet story about small town friendships and trying to find your place in the world. Something along the lines of a Studio Ghibli movie. The story could end with having to move on and start anew on a deserted island. Or stepping up in the community and taking over as mayor. I'd mostly just hope it would be traditionally animated again like the first. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, just, Studio Ghibli, they're a master of craft for sure. So having anything that's on par with that is just beautiful.
And the animation in the first movie is unreal, like especially the backgrounds. So that would be beautiful.
I agree.
Yeah. Nice. So Little Jaeger said, I wonder if a sequel would be set on an island and follow the main characters as they build up its wild landscape into a thriving village. I think that framework would be a really great start for a movie, especially if it follows the same characters. Oh, so okay. So it's more like a true sequel in a way, developing on the first one, but moving it to an island. I like that.
That would be
Yeah, that's
cool.
pretty fun.
It'd be interesting to see if it did have the same characters, and then like more would come in. The bigger, the bigger the landscape would be.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
right.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
All right. M says definitely more Celeste and Blather's sibling floof, but also other NPC stories. I don't actually think we know much about Tom Nook's past and about his relationship to the Nooklings, so that would be a really cool storyline, I think. Definitely. Just like you were
Yeah.
saying earlier, Sergio, we need to know more about Tom Nook, especially since he took such a major role in New Horizons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's fun to kind of like dig into those characters because, the games can only do so much and they don't really dig into the characters too much. So I would
Yeah.
appreciate it for sure. So Ella Walker said, I would love to see Margie's success in her designer path. Maybe they could even incorporate a collaboration with Label for an Able Sisters line to keep her connected to the village throughout the film. I would also love to see Timmy and Tommy introduced as we watch Tom Nook grow his business. There's so much I'd want to see. I think that's cute. That's a really good follow-up for, what
Yes.
existed before.
Yeah, that's another like true sequel, like you were saying before. That's so
Yeah,
cute.
that'd be awesome. So Kakulu also said, I would love to see a sequel about the non-playable characters. I want a Forrest Gump-style involvement from the villager as we learn about the Able sisters' past, Bladder's root or fear of bugs, Nook's humble beginnings, etc. Oh, I'm definitely more definitely interested in learning about Bladders because I want to see how he got to where he is now. He's awesome.
Everybody seems to be pretty much on the same page about wanting to learn more. More we just want more, that's all.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned earlier, like, you asked people who are new to the series, like, does it make it less exciting because you don't know the characters? And I mean, judging by these answers, probably. I feel like we
Yeah.
all really love the cast of Animal Crossing and appreciate what they bring to the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, our last one is Seth Window. Definitely an origin story for Tom Nook, including his childhood and career at Enron. At
The true beginnings here.
That was hilarious. The last word of that of that sentence was on a completely different line when I was reading it. So I had no idea where that was going. That's amazing.
Yeah, hilarious. Thank you, Seth. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Haken, an Animal Crossing podcast. Don't want the episode to end? Well, you can keep the conversation going by Nintendo switching over to our Discord. Just follow the link in the description, and you can talk with other people who love Animal Crossing as much as you do, including Sergio, Nina, and me. Want to support the show in a bigger way and get your voice heard during the show? Visit patreon.com/ChewiePlaysNintendo. You can support our show with just $1, get special access to a secret room on Discord, join in on the Haken Islander Corner, and even read a monthly newsletter covering all things Haken and Chewie Plays. We really appreciate the support and put your money towards some great things on the show. Tuned in on YouTube, the comments are a great place to let us know your answers to the Haken Islander Corner. What would you like to see happen in an Animal Crossing movie sequel? If you dig what you hear, please KK slide over to that review section on your platform of choice. Let people know what they're missing out on. Haken is a Wild production brought to you by Chewie, Sergio, Nina, and all of our patrons. We thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great week.
Goodbye, everybody.
See you all next time.